Hey there! Welcome to Measure Twice Money's new financial planning video series called Keep Finance Personal Conversations, where we get to experience what financial planning looks like with real people, real numbers, and real conversations. To start the series, we get to learn more about Jamie, age 62, during her first financial planning meeting. Before this call, I reviewed her shared financial information. Jamie works part time as a paralegal, earning and spending about $65,000 per year, and she hopes to retire within a few years. She has four adult children in their 40s, and her ex husband and best friend for over 30 years died unexpectedly 2 years ago. She has about $1.5 million in total investments, and she will receive about $36,000 a year in future Social Security. But during our conversation, Jamie beautifully illustrates and reminds us that financial planning goes beyond the numbers. Let's discover the parts of her life that don't fit neatly in a spreadsheet. Jamie, it's so great to see you. I've been enjoying reviewing all your financial documents. You uploaded, I think, 50 financial documents over the past week. What was that experience like uploading everything in your life with a number on it?
It made me very thankful for being as OCD as I am, because it was relatively simple exercise, but it made me kind of chuckle.
To give advice in somebody's best interest, you first have to understand their interest. Keep finance personal is one of the main trademarks of the Measure Twice brand. So I always really want to focus on the family and then the finances because ultimately our job here isn't to fit your life into your money, it's to fit your money into your life. What brought you to this place? And with that said, what are the types of family dynamics that have changed over time that led you to this place financially and otherwise?
As I kind of said in my application, I grew up really, really poor.
Mm,
My family was the family on the block that kind of stood by and struggled and just really didn't. I didn't have a very good, stable, secure start in life.
mm,
And it might be true that I would always be somebody for whom security is very important, but despite any type of upbringing, but I think as a result of that, I've always had a real need for making sure that I'm financially secure. I didn't get much help, when I was starting out, and just have always been somebody who's saved and kind of lived within my means, whatever that has been. And there have been times when those means were very, very humble. But over the years, I just have continued to kind of just work at acquiring security, in the form of, just each year working to better my position in life, be it professionally or just financially. Little by little, it's taken root and grown into something that is
mm,
quite lovely now. I think that it's just been a long journey of just doing the right things and kind of
mm.
avoiding the wrong things. It's been kind of a
Wow.
simple journey of just. I think the real challenge for me is going to be the decumulation
Mm,
phase of my life,
right.
because I really think that saving money is just instinctive with me, and something that makes me feel secure, and spending money is something that I find more challenging. So, and I was having a conversation with my partner today because I want to be 7 steps ahead for whatever disaster awaits me. And so I think I mentioned to you that we're going to be buying a house, selling my condo, buying a house. And I'm having all kinds of trouble with it, emotional
Mm,
trouble. It's really kind of causing a lot of anxiety with me because I can't see 7 steps ahead. What if this happens? What if
mm,
that happens? How am I going to handle those things? But I think the brilliant thing that I said was, do I want a small life today and for the rest of my life? Or do I want a big life today? Take a chance, have a bigger life today, and have a small life later when I'm older, when it's time to have a smaller life, when it's time to simplify and end up, either in assisted living or a small apartment, surrounded with, my few mementos. And I'm really trying to push myself to have a bigger life now
mm.
while I'm able to have it, but it requires me to push through a lot of fear.
Well, you've just shared a beautiful example. Thank you for being transparent and vulnerable about that because Some people want to just go, can we just talk about mutual funds,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
just talk.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, let's just talk about fees and mutual funds. But I love that we're talking about. I mean, you're thinking about building a life, not just a portfolio. One thing you said was, a small life today and for the rest of my life. What area of your life feels like it's been small, and like how long has it been small? That area of your life.
So right now I'm in this condo where, all these decisions are kind of made for me. I just pay a lot of money each month for condo fees, and then my parents, make sure that the maintenance is done and that the grass is mown. And I'm still living kind of a small, careful life in this condo that does not require me to um, be a full adult. And I think that's been
Mm.
kind of a theme in my life, is just trying to mitigate disaster. you know and so I have partnered with people over the years and worked hard. I've always kind of hitched my wagon to people who want to work with me,
Mm.
and have the kind of the same relationship with money that I do, relationship to money that I do. And now I am partnered with a man who grew up with a lot of money,
Mm.
and he has a completely different way of being in the world. He has no anxiety around just doing the next thing. His relationship to things and money looks different than mine does. I tend to want to be in control of all things at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I think I control, I usually underestimate what I can deal with. I mean, 2 years ago, my husband died, and I've handled all of it. And I've been the rock for the family. And I went through probate and I figured out all the finances. And I've learned in 2 years a lot about how money works. And I've gotten a lot of things aligned and organized and in place. I am a capable person. And yet I still want to live this small life where I'm sure that nothing, that I'm safe. And it
Mm.
just seems like scarcity mindset to me. There is going to come a time when I can't get up the stairs anymore. But do I really have to arrange my life now for that day? 20 years from now, that's what I'm trying to push through. I don't want a
Mm.
small life now. And I don't, I have friends who sit in their apartment, their rented apartment, and they get their social security check and they know how much they can take out of their investments each month. And that's enough for them. And that on some level feels really good to me. But I
Mm.
think that would be a mistake. And that's what I think, balancing my need for safety with wanting to live a full, rich life while I'm still able to, and then also leaving a legacy for the kids and being a good steward of the money, because, the money came to me through a tragic event and way too early. And so I have all these years left that, I have to manage the money and it has to last. But I also have a real responsibility to my children. So balancing those are kind of probably the three legs of the stool of what I'm trying to reconcile.
In marriage with Brian over those 30 plus years, and having adult children at that point as well, at what point did you feel like you went from that dependence to like a collaborative approach? Did it feel collaborative, or did you always kind of feel like backseat financially?
No, we worked hard. We remodeled houses, and
Mm.
we were careful with money, and we did without, and we put ourselves through college together, and we provided for the children together. I mean, I grew up in the city, and Brian grew up on a farm, and he had me doing things that, all my girlfriends would just say, he has you hauling rocks. Okay. And I'm hauling rocks because, I knew that Brian was somebody that I could trust, that if he said he knew how to
Mm.
do something, he was the brains and I was, just the labor, and also, I did a lot of the design work, and we really created a successful life together. He was a worker, I'm a worker, and I knew I could trust him. I knew that
Mm.
that If he told me he didn't know how to do something, that we would find a way to get it done. But if he told me, if he walked through the living room with a sledgehammer and told me to get my dirties on, then I'd just do it. I never thought twice about it. I was like, oh, we're taking down a wall? Okay, let's do it. And he always gave his best. He
Mm.
always did his best work. And I'm somebody who always does my best work. And so he was faithful in that way. He
Oh,
was really,
that's beautiful.
we were really a great team in a lot of ways. Brian really brought some real know-how to things.
Mm.
My job in the family was a little different. I had a lot of the emotional labor, and I was just kind of, the person who cared for the family. But also, when we had big jobs to do, I was his workmate. But I don't think he
Mm.
really, like when he would tell the story, I would be the one who, like for instance, we remodeled a kitchen. So one of my great strengths is I can always identify an opportunity. Like I'll be in the middle of a conversation or something, and I'll hear something over here, and all of a sudden my ears perk up, and I'm like, I need to pay attention to that. And it's just it's just a sixth sense that I have. And so we were going to remodel a kitchen. I really wanted to put some nice cabinets in, and we were going to all these different kitchen design studios, looking around, and we went into this one place, and it was the brand that I was looking for. And I looked around and I said, "So how much?" I asked the salesperson, "So how much would something like this? How much are these cabinets?" First, she said, "These are $1 million, pretty much." And I was like, "Well, we want to, we're not living in, Palm Beach, so I probably not going to pay that much for cabinets, but thank you so much." But then she said, "But actually, we're not even carrying this brand anymore." And I looked around and I said, "I think this would be perfect for our kitchen. I think this would actually fit perfectly. Can we take some measurements? Would you sell us this display?" And she sold it to us. Long story short, we got it for 30% of what it ordinarily would have cost, and we put it in. And so then when Brian would tell the story, he would say, "So I went into this design studio, for kitchens, and I just started looking around, and I realized that the cabinets would probably fit in my kitchen. So I asked the salesperson, and he never gave me, any credit at all." I think what I was working toward was security
Hmm.
and not affirmation,
Mm.
and not needing to be seen as the boss or anything. I'm just always, um, all I know how to do is work and try to
Mm.
make my life better, and protect what I have. I see houses as assets, you know.
Mm.
And so every time, I think about what I want to do with a house, I think about it increasing the value of the house. I don't think about it
Mm.
necessarily even for my own enjoyment. And I think about, oh, what is the return on investment going to be, And, and when I go to sell this house 30 years from now, why am I thinking about 30 years from now? Why can't I just, you know, enjoy the house that I have? I
Mm.
think about my friends, and they have these houses that are very modest, and they love them and they enjoy them, and
Mm.
they live lovely little lives in these houses, but they're not thinking about resale like I am.
Would you say that what they're doing is a mistake or something you aspire
No,
to?
something I aspire to. I think there's a balance, and I think I'm out of balance on
Mm.
some level. You know, a balance between protecting the money for the children and living a little.
Absolutely.
There's a balance between seeing a house as an asset and protecting the asset and doing regular routine maintenance and not worrying about every time you ding the floor,
Mm.
you know, which is what I do. So I'm working my way through this,
Yeah.
because now it's all on me, and kind of I do have the ability to, before I was just kind of along for the ride, and there were two of us
Mm.
kind of calling the shots, and there was a lot of compromising and, negotiating and allowing. But now I have to, these are, having this discussion with you is really kind of, whether we ever get to the money, I think is like so
Mm.
instructive just to think about. my values and my relationship to money and my psychology around money. You know,
Hmm.
if I get nothing more out of this conversation than that, I think it will have been well worth it. Don't you know? So
Absolutely. It would be a mistake for us to just, put the numbers into a spreadsheet and just print out what comes out and just be like, okay, Jamie, here you go. Like, here's your permission. Because at the same time, one thing that I see from you is this desire to continue to be independent, even more so. But if you think about this, financial planning is a collaborative approach where my job isn't to tell you what to do or how to do it, but really provide personalized education so you can make that well informed decision and have agency over your decisions yourself. Based on what I see from the numbers, like you have been incredibly successful in those things that so many people have challenges with. So many people struggle with cutting costs and increasing income and thinking about assets at all of your habits that you've developed over the years. Like there are people who feel like they've got that covered. You said it's second nature to save money and be frugal. It's just as difficult. Again, I don't want to make a competition, but I think it's just as difficult to switch from saving and investing to actually spending in alignment with what you value. If the bag of money just becomes a ball and chain, like how successful were you financially, right? If you're not able to really enjoy that. So I'd love to know, like thinking about, not the new house, but your current condo, are there certain elements of your current condo that make your house feel like a home, where there's a place of safety there, where you're really glad to come back after a long day into your home? Like what
yes.
elements in your house make it feel like a home?
Well, it's well cared for. It's in really great shape. I do the routine maintenance. I'm fastidious about making sure that, things are cared for. There's a lot of light. One of the things that I liked the condo for is the idea of being single woman of a certain age by myself is there's safety in knowing that there are neighbors in the
Mm,
building, that if something happens, I can go down the hallway and knock on a door. And
mm,
if that door nobody answers there, I can continue down the. So if there's an emergency, or if somebody's trying to break in, or I need to, I just feel a little more safety that way,
mm,
um, in a condo. And also, there's safety in knowing that there are a board of people who are professionals. I live in a city proper, and the people in my building are professionals and intelligent and educated. The people on the board are just really terrific, reasonable, honest,
mm-hmm,
hardworking people who
mm,
are have everyone's best interest. I trust them. They are keeping an eye on the property, and that's
mm,
a burden that I don't have to bear. It benefits them, in terms of their asset, in terms of keeping things up and keep in protecting their investment.
mm,
I feel like I've got someone at the helm who's keeping an eye on things, because it's my condo, it's not my partner's condo. So if we move, we'd be moving into something that we both own. Those are the things that make me feel safe. Just that the condo,
mm,
and really, the condo was very problematic in terms of it. There are all these special assessments that I mentioned to you. The condo was not well constructed, so we've all been hit with these first, second, and third special assessments. I've had to find the money to cover those. Um,
mm.
so if I can find the money for that, if I can budget for that, like what is it that I can't actually handle? I don't think there's anything I can't actually handle.
Amazing. Those things that you kind of mentioned, the house feeling like a home, you said light, neighbors, that security and safety. I kind of wonder, like, if you were to make a list of, are there ways that you can perceive those same benefits in this new house that you're looking at? And by the way, I looked at the new house. I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna jump a little bit in my notes here. I've got 10 pages of fun notes for you. Um, so looking at this new house, this is kind of fun to think about. So I looked at, it's about 25 minutes from your current condo. I took the 360 tour around, which was really fun. One thing that you mentioned is you love the walkability of your current place.
I do.
I know you're shifting in location, but it's walkable to downtown. That you're near water. You're right there. That little river, and again, you're always going to be close to water. Is that near and dear to your heart? Just
Yes.
seeing the
Yes.
nature.
Yes. It is on a waterway that goes and goes and goes, and we'll be able to literally put a paddleboard or a kayak or a canoe, go out our back door and go
Mm.
to the river. And being on the river just is, and hear the birds and then get on the bike trail. And we can bike from that city to my current city, in an hour and 15 minutes. And it will require and encourage and allow us to remain active.
Mm.
And that's very important as I get older. I don't want to, let me see. Okay, security, small life, and Wheel of Fortune. Nothing against Wheel of Fortune versus, you know, a, a big, juicy life that
Mm.
requires a little more courage.
Mm.
And maybe pushing through, but everything is there, like you say. Walkability, downtown is a cute little downtown with lots going on.
The
Actually,
master on the first floor, right? That might be important.
master on the first floor, um, laundry on the first floor, room for family and babies. Very important to me. Right now, I don't have room for families and babies. I can't take the babies out to the backyard and watch them grow and play in the
Oh.
grass. There is no grass. There's a patio. So many things that will
Mm.
enlarge and expand my life and
Mm.
and be true blessings. Um,
Mm.
and just working through giving up
You're like, oh, you're like, I gotta open my
my
fist a
need for
little bit,
security.
right?
Yeah,
And you might have heard that idea, right? That a lot of people like they hold on to things, but when you open your hands, not only are you able to give more, but you're able to receive more, right? Not
exactly.
just financially, but in different ways.
Exactly. One of the things that I'm most looking forward to is having a place for the grandchildren, you know.
Mm.
I That is super important to me. I just with every passing day I become more thirsty for their company. And
Mm.
I thought I was only going to have one grandchild, and lo and behold, 10 years later, now I'm excited about a second child coming into the world. But my first grandchild, I need to take care of him in this. Parents are going to
Mm.
be busy, and that's just the way it is. And I want him to come for the summers now, and he's at this perfect age, and we'd have a river for him, and we'd have kayaks, and we'd have walkable
Mm.
downtown. And that's the thing about my partner. He's good at all that stuff, and he can open that world, like you say, open your hand, let go of some things, to take hold of others. I have a friend who used the analogy of when you get into a canoe
Mm.
and you're not quite in the canoe, and you've got one foot in the canoe and the other on the shore, and you're kind of right. But when you're on the shore, you're fine, and when you're in the canoe, you're fine. It's just
Mm.
that transition that
Mm-hmm.
can be a little scary. So I think I'm in that transition moment right now, that I'm a little.
This being a shared expense moving forward, this could actually be a better financial situation for you. In your current condo, right? Your mortgage is sitting, at least based on when I looked at your mortgage statement, was about 19,000 remaining. Most of your equities in the home, which by the way, thinking about the home as a primary residence, as a lifestyle decision and not an investment, you're actually better off financially to take equity out of the home, buy that new home with cash. If you were to mortgage this next property, it would be a different story because you might be looking at 7 or 8% mortgage rates. Since you're going half and half into this house paying cash, and you're going to have additional equity, again, minus transaction costs, putting that into long-term investments to support your retirement income needs, you're actually in a better financial situation by moving than staying in your condo.
Okay, that's great news.
At least from the spreadsheet, at least on the spreadsheet side, right?
Okay, that's great news.
One thing that you mentioned is this idea of leaving a legacy. And I wonder, in terms of definition, we all might think about that differently, whether a legacy is a number or a philosophy or a value that was passed down. But when you say that you'd like to leave a legacy for your children and your grandchildren, possibly, what might that look like if you were to pass away? Your children and grandchildren said, "Wow, like, our mom and grandma Jamie, she left a legacy." Like, what would need to happen for them to say something like that?
If I can afford to retire, I'd like to spend time with my family. I'd like to spend time with my grandkids and be a real part of their life, which has not been actually possible until up to this point. I also feel, because of the way I grew up, which was pretty chaotic, um, that I was never really, I don't, and I say this stuff, Cody, because I think this is what serves your purpose and my purpose. But if I'm talking too much about emotions or, values or anything like that, please just, if that's not the way the conversation needs to go, um, I don't have any deep need to direct the conversation in that direction. Um, so be okay with that, or
Thinking about the industry for a moment in terms of working with a financial advisor, I think that financial planning is really changing from transactions to relationships.
okay.
And to me, I don't believe. Again, I can run spreadsheets all day. I can run advanced scenarios and software all day, but I want my recommendations to be aligned with not just your numbers but also your values. Financial planning I describe as a bridge between two islands. So I'll kind of get in frame here. So let's say one island here is what most people focus on, which is your comprehensive financial ecosystem. It's everything in your life with a number on it: your income, your assets, your estate documents, your insurance, all those things. And then over here, there's this other island that some people just seem to ignore, which is you and your family's unique values and desired outcomes. I view financial planning as a bridge between the two. So, in terms of conversation, I would expect and actually hope that we spend just as much time talking about values and the things that you care about, the things your family cares about, the things that you want to instill, the values you want to instill in the future generations of your, not just your name, but of your family. Let's spend time over here on this island and with full permission to go as deep as you'd like.
Okay.
When you talk about wanting to be a real part of your family's life and spend time with your family, what type of values do you want to instill in those moments that you spend time with your family?
So I know that my children do not look at this money as theirs. They're not waiting for me to kick off. you know I really do feel that all of the children would want me to uh, live a more expanded, rich life,
Mm.
and don't feel any entitlement to the money. That's
Wow.
probably true.
Hmm.
The way I grew up was such that I was never really chosen. I never really had a place at a table. I never had a home to call my own. And so what the money really represents to me is claiming my children, all four of them, letting them all know that they are mine and that they are covered and that I took good care of them and that I choose them, even if they
Mm.
didn't come from, even if I didn't give birth to them, that they are as much mine. And I think that is the hidden thing that operates with my
Mm.
need to make sure that there's a legacy for them, because there was never a legacy for me. And then also not belonging to anybody. So I think the money becomes a way of affirming love, affirming belonging, affirming family, no matter what, no matter how it looks, no matter if there was a divorce, no matter whether that you're grown up, you still are mine. I choose you. I claim you. I will protect you. That's what the money means to me.
Wow. You have a 9-year-old grandson, so he's about to be a brother, which is incredible, amazing. And one thing that I noticed here is that you have been contributing annually to a 529 education account for him. Why is that important to you?
Going from being poor
to having money requires a real shift in culture. I'm learning a lot about my hidden biases
Mm,
around money and around people that I perceive to be wealthy, whatever that means. I think that one of the things that the really wealthy do particularly well is invest in their young people's education. And I know that there's not a lot of money in the 529 right now. I don't think it has great returns. So I'm putting money into it each year, but also my investments are also going to be used to fund education for the grandkids. I think that you invest in future generations, and that gets them, that right there eases their way and kind of accelerates their success. And each generation does better than the generation that came before them, hopefully, and shares what they have with the next generation. Because, these generations now, people who are coming of age now, they have problems that we didn't have. There
mm,
are some really tough situations, in terms of, interest rates or, the cost of getting an education. When I went through school, it was, you could get all kinds of grants and get through school, if you were careful, and Brian and I were very careful, we got through school and I think we owed $1,600 at the end of it with 4 kids. We had four
wow.
kids at the time, right? We didn't have, a lot of lavish meals out, but we made it. But I think it's like very intimidating nowadays for people to think about funding an education, and if grandparents can help with that, then they're
Mm,
making an investment in their family. I never, this is me changing my generational trauma into something, a real family. I went from zero family to being the matriarch of, you know, certainly imperfect, certainly have not done everything correctly, that I would know to do now, or, as my children know to do. Things have changed. It's a different world. Parents know so much more about what they're doing nowadays. We didn't have the internet. We didn't know what we were doing. I was a baby when I was starting out. I feel like this is shifting.
mm,
The legacy also means family to me, and shifting what there was no family in my generation. We were
mm,
all scattered. We were all living with aunts and uncles and grandmothers, and
mm. It's like
you
the
know,
tribe was split up, and you're like, let's bring the tribe back together
I'm
somehow.
bringing it back together. I see the importance of family, and anything I can do to reinforce that, strengthen that.
I'd like to know about your previous conversations with your adult children about that concept. Is that something that you've expressed, or are you kind of gathering your thoughts to present to them?
I'm gathering it because this exercise with you has you've asked such intelligent questions, in our pre-conversation questions that you gave me. I think just because of the person you are and the way you approach financial planning, you want the story, you want the money to fit into the life, right? And so it's really been a great exercise for me to has given me an opportunity to really kind of examine my values around all of this. And
Mm.
if again, if nothing else happens here, if we don't even talk about money, I think it's just been invaluable.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely.
At the end of last year, there are some expenses for seeing a psychotherapist. So going to see a therapist or a counselor.
Hmm.
One thing that I want to mention also for our listeners to, viewers to see is that your physical, mental, spiritual, relational, and financial wellness are interrelated. And what I find is that a lot of people, especially working, when they hire a financial advisor, they're really focused on the financial piece. They end up at age 65 with all the money they need, but their physical health, their body's not in a good enough shape to go on those big trips that they've been saving for. Their mental health, they live in so much anxiety. I describe anxiety as the fear of future uncertainty. We put all these different things on the back burner, right? So physical, mental, spiritual, and we put our relationships sometimes on the back burner as we say, okay, well, I'll spend more time with my family when I have this much, or when I have this money, I'll finally be able to bring them on that big trip. I'll tell you now that looking at the numbers, like the numbers are there. Like you've arrived. If you think about all those elements, your physical, mental, spiritual, relational, and financial wellness as slices of pie. The financial slice is like it's delicious. It's going to be juicy and delicious as you talked about your life wanting to be. Like you're in a fantastic place financially. The reason I'm asking so many questions about the other slices of pie is that I don't want to just give you an investment. I don't want to give you like a financial investment answer and then like not like give you the full picture. We'll solve the number part, but we want to make sure that when I present or kind of give permission, I know some people are looking for permission. I just want somebody to tell me how much I can spend or if I can make this decision and will it work? We'll get all those things, but I want to make sure that when I present that information to you, it's directly aligned. You've been earning money for Social Security since before 1980. Do you remember that first job that you had that gave you a pay statement after your week was done? What was that job?
I was an electronic equipment repairman in the United States
Wow.
Air Force.
Wow. Amazing. I didn't know that about you before today.
Yeah,
That was your very first job. Wow.
it's my very first job.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
When you got your first paycheck from the Air Force, do you remember what that amount was?
Probably about $300. I think that first year I made like $5,000 for the whole year. And do you know that I managed to save money? What did I start doing with the money?
Hmm.
Everybody else was, you know, the new stereo and and I was socking money away.
Was that your first opportunity to feel independent with money?
Yes, it felt really good. I
Did you
felt
hold it
very
real
secure.
close to your heart?
Yes, I felt very secure. I felt
Yeah.
good putting the money away and making decisions and
Mm.
buying my first little piece of jewelry that, whatever.
I love the idea that you're already thinking independently really early on. You started saving immediately, but you bought jewelry.
Yeah,
There was an element of affirmation, grace, compassion for yourself in that moment. Like, where did that impulse to buy jewelry come from?
I just felt so secure and knew that
Mm.
I was stocking money away and that there was some room for discretionary spending and didn't overdo it. I didn't, I never went into debt or anything, but I just felt kind of heady, just
Mm.
I'm independent. I have a steady paycheck, and
Celebration of sorts.
yeah, it was a little bit of kind of just an mini adult moment of having the means and buying myself something pretty with it.
So if we think about moving into retirement, what I mean by that is, being work optional. By the way, you don't have to stop working. I don't know if you've ever, had this idea that, hey, once you're 65, like you're done. I always say that age is not the same thing as incapacity, right?
Right.
Some people assume that as you age, you just can't do anything anymore. I've worked and met with people in their 90s who are working, a 40-hour, 50-hour week job and still love it. But they know that they're working because they want to, not because they have to. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, you're at this place, right? That you can work because you want to, not because you have to. You've been working and earning for over 40 years, over 44 years actually, right? Amazing, incredible. What might it feel like to go a whole month without a paycheck, rather than money coming from an employer or somebody else, the money coming from your own portfolio? Like, what feelings does that invigorate?
I find talking about finances and money, like, maybe if I had been born at a different time or, had more confidence when I was a younger person, maybe I would have gone into this field because money is a tool. I think when it's used correctly,
Hmm.
it's just another tool for living your best life. You
Hmm.
don't win. Personally, I don't think that, whoever has the most toys wins. I just don't, I'm not interested in that. If I could figure out how to arrange my allocations such that the money is working correctly for me, because I'm very flexible. I know how to be poor. I have been poor. I can do beans and rice all day. I can do it for as many weeks as it takes. If the market goes down, I'm going to be fine. I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to start pulling stuff out. I'm going to buy more if I can, you know. Oh, everything's on sale.
Dig
It's
for
sale.
coins in the couches if you need
That's
to.
right. That's right. I can do poor. It might be really fun to get the money allocated in such a way that it's working for me efficiently
Hmm.
and I'm living within my means. And this month I have X number of dollars, and this month I have X minus two number of dollars.
Mm.
But I've arranged my life such that I'm debt free. You know, I'm living within my means. And this year, the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to take more, local road trips, and the big vacation's going to have to wait until the market's up.
Mm.
When I think about that, and again, this I'm thinking about this and have an answer to this for the first time in my life because of the wonderful questions you've asked. I actually have an answer to this. I think it might be kind of exhilarating and fun to be the manager of my of
Your
my
own employer.
money. Yeah, my own employer, you know.
Mm.
I think I'm trustworthy.
If you were to start this job as money manager for yourself, Jamie, your resume would look pretty good in terms of your history with managing and, especially on the frugal part, this excitement that you have, this invigoration of like, hey, it might actually be exciting. And I think the system that would be most exciting for you is really creating what I call a retirement paycheck. If you imagine going into retirement, imagine if you were still paid on the 1st and 15th every month,
Okay.
and maybe even more than you get paid now. Is that like a dream world in your mind?
That's a pretty much a dream world to me. Is that what we're really talking about here?
We'll be talking about literally creating a paycheck in retirement for you that's consistent, that based on the data. You don't have to base whether you get dessert, or take, Isaac and the other grandson out for ice cream based on what the stock market did today. Like, we're talking about creating consistent cash flow into your life, into your bank account, just like you were working, but instead of an 8 to 5 at work, it's an 8 to 5 on the river. We will design that together.
Okay. Okay. All right. It's been a long road. So that's I just have to sit with that for a second because that's I feel like I feel like all the work and all the anxiety and all the care and all the faith and all the you know, one of the problems with being frugal is that you never allow yourself to have a dream.
Hmm.
And beyond, I'm going to meet these financial goals. So now I feel like I'm at the end of that phase maybe, and now the job becomes, but just sitting with the fact that from what I hear you saying, that maybe I can rest. you
Hmm.
know I can I'm done with that part of the journey, and that
Hmm.
now I need to with your help figure out what the next part of the journey looks like. I love the fact that we're talking about what would a paycheck look like? How do you want the money to be distributed? But this is all stuff that I need help with because
Hmm.
I didn't think that I was ever going to get to the finish line. And now you're wrapping a towel around my shoulders and handing me, some water and saying, we're good. You got to the finish line. So what do you want the rest of your day to look like? And that is such, I can't tell you what a comfort that is to me and what a gift that is to me.
It takes typically 2 to 3 years to really settle into that realization. By the way, we haven't even talked about the numbers yet.
I hope you can use some of this. um, I am getting so much out of it. I can't even tell you how much I'm getting out of this because, and it's even, you've really, really done a great job of structuring this in such a way that people have to think about these other things and have answers to these
Mm.
questions. And I think it's brilliant. This exercise has been invaluable to me. So
Mm.
I actually have answers to questions that I've never had answers to before. I'd never thought of before because I was too busy, just nose to the grindstone.
This is going to help me so much, I think. I think this is going to be a game changer for me.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to this conversation with Jamie. I hope you enjoyed meeting her as much as I did. If you'd like to watch our future conversations and meet other financial planning clients, make sure to subscribe to the channel and please share this video with anybody you think it would help. Until next time, measure twice and keep finance personal. Thank you so much.